So sometimes we get some positive feedback. That's always nice.
Good evening. Linda, could you please give the invocation?
In 2 Thessalonians 3:3 it says, "But the Lord is faithful, and he will strengthen you and protect you from the evil one." Lord, we see that our world is filled with events and situations that can cause great fear and anxiety. And even though it's easy to become overwhelmed and live imprisoned by fear, we remember your promise that you are faithful and you will protect us. Lord, surround our mayor, our city manager, our city council members, and everyone in our communities with your divine hedge of protection. Shelter us, surround us, and place your favor on us as a shield. In Psalms 91:4 it says, "He will cover you with his feathers, and under his wings you will find refuge. His feathers will be your shield and rampart." Lord, we can be glad and filled with joy because we love you and exalt your name above all names, and we take our refuge in you. Lord, protect our minds. You have said that minds that are set on the Spirit give life and peace. Help us by the power of your Spirit to set our minds on truth, honor, righteousness, purity, loveliness, integrity, respect, compassion, and whatever is of good repute. Lord, dress us in your armor so we can stand firm against the schemes and strategies of the evil one. We know that our struggle is not against flesh and blood, but against powers, rulers, forces of darkness, and wickedness. You are our keeper, Lord. Guard our hearts, guard our journey forward, guard our righteous endeavors, guard our tongues, and help us to line up our thoughts with your heart. In Jesus' name, amen.
Thank you, Linda. Now we'll officially call this meeting to order. Madam Clerk, would you please take the roll?
Mayor Miller,
Here.
Alderpersons Borneman,
Present.
McClanathan,
Here.
Ross,
Here.
Parker,
Here.
Busker,
Here.
Brashaw,
Here.
Mysick is absent, and Berberay.
Here.
Thank you. If you could please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance led by Alderman McClanathan. Item number 1 is the approval of the agenda. Is there such a motion?
So moved.
Second.
We have a motion made by Alderman Brashaw, seconded by Alderman Busker. Can we just do voice? You okay with that? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? That motion passes. Item number 2 is the approval of the minutes from the meeting on July 20th, 2020. Is there a motion for the approval of those minutes?
So moved.
Second. We have a motion made by Alderman Busker, seconded by Alderman Borneman. All those in favor of the approval of the minutes signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? That motion passes. Are there any public comments on the agenda? Don, could you take a look? Okay, then we will go on to item number 4, which is the consent agenda. All the items on the consent agenda are considered to be routine in nature unless there's a member of the council that would like to have something removed for further discussion. Seeing none, the consent agenda consists of approving and placing on file the minutes from the city manager's recruitment committee for April 27th and May 8th, memo waiving building permit fee for FHN's Family Medical, the fire department report for June 2020, and the police department report for April, May, and June 2020. The approval of the finance bills payable in the total of $621,015.36, and the approval of the payroll from pay period ending July 18th, 2020, in the total of $534,848.13. Is there a motion to approve the consent agenda?
So moved.
Second.
We have a motion made by Alderman Brashaw, seconded by Alderman Berberay. Madam Clerk, could you please take the roll?
McClanathan.
Aye.
Ross.
Aye.
Parker.
Aye.
Busker.
Aye.
Brashaw.
Aye.
Berberay.
Aye.
And Borneman.
Aye.
Motion passes 7-0.
Thank you. Item number 5 is recognition of Service Award Manager Abukas.
Thank you, Your Honor. I'm going to turn this time over to Director Boyer.
Please join me in congratulating Richard Lindeman on his 5th year of service to the city. Richard, or Rick, as he's known, is our evening wastewater operator. His duties entail operating the Hancock wastewater treatment plant and ensuring that the treatment plant meets regulatory standards during the evening hours. Rick is a graduate of Northeast Wisconsin Technical College with over 80 hours of credit in business management and industrial safety. Rick's future goals include demonstrating his value to the city by acquiring his Class 1 wastewater license. Thank you for your service, Rick, and I look forward to your future achievements at the City of Freeport. Thank you.
Thank you. Item number 6 is the appointments. Madam Clerk, would you please read those for the record?
Acceptance of appointment of Boston Newton III to the Housing Authority effective immediately until October 31, 2023. We also have an approval and place on file of the appointment of Kirsten Hines to the Board of the Northwestern Illinois Community Action Agency, or NICA.
Madam
Any-
Mayor,
Yes, Alderman Brashaw.
can we vote on these as one unit?
I'm good with that if you are.
Council? I would like to make a motion for acceptance of these 2 appointments then.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion made by Alderman Brashaw, seconded by Alderman Parker. If there's no other discussion, Madam Clerk, could you please take the roll?
Mayor,
Yes, Alderman McClanathan.
thank you. There have been previous comments or questions regarding, I think, the residential position on the Housing Authority. Does Mr. Newton's appointment resolve that?
Yes, he is a resident.
Thank you.
Ready for the roll call?
Yes.
McClanathan.
Aye.
Ross.
Aye.
Parker.
Aye.
Busker.
Aye.
Brashaw.
Aye.
Berberay.
Aye.
And Borneman.
Aye.
Motion passes 8-0.
Thank you. Item number 7.
7. Pardon me, Madam Mayor, may I say?
Yes.
7-0? We
I even wrote down 8. Thank you, Alderperson Brashaw. 7-0.
Item number 7 is the second reading of Ordinance 2020-39. Could you please read this?
An ordinance amending various provisions of Chapter 660, Additional Hazardous Materials, and Chapter 242, Fire Department of the Code of Ordinances of the City of Freeport.
Thank you. Chief Liggett?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I previously presented a staff report on this subject matter. I would like to entertain any additional questions the council may have.
Anything, Council?
Madam Mayor,
Alderman Brashaw?
thank you. I believe, as a council, we've gone over this in pretty minute detail, and also with Scott Townsend's explanations as well. I think we understand this. Thank you, Chief.
If there's no further discussion, Madam Clerk, please take the roll.
McClanathan.
Aye.
Ross.
Aye.
Parker.
Aye.
Busker.
Aye.
Brashaw.
Aye.
Berberay.
Aye.
And Borneman.
Aye.
The ordinance passes 7-0.
Thank you. Item number 8 is the second reading of Ordinance 2020-42. Could you please read this?
Ordinance declaring personal property in surplus.
Thank you. Director Hines.
Thank you. As I had previously discussed, this ordinance would approve the sale of surplus of 2 of the Pretzel City Transit buses. And to clarify a question that was asked before, the sale of these 2 buses would not reduce any of the services that Pretzel City Transit provides. They had reduced services due to COVID-19, but only providing essential services and just reducing like the recreational rides to restaurants or things like that.
Any further questions, Council? Seeing none, Madam Clerk, could you please take the roll on the passage of this ordinance?
McClanathan.
Aye.
Ross.
Aye.
Parker.
Aye.
Busker.
Aye.
Brashaw.
Aye.
Berberay.
Aye.
And Borneman.
Aye.
The ordinance passes 7-0.
Thank you. Item number 9 is the adoption of Resolution 2020-40. Could you please read this?
Resolution of the City of Freeport authorizing and approving an agreement with Chastain and Associates LLC to provide engineering and grant application services related to the Freeport Golf Club drainage matters.
Thank you. Manager Bucus.
Thank you, Your Honor. Many years ago, the city allowed the Parkview Manor to expand its facilities. At that time, the Freeport Club has claimed that the city received money to basically for stormwater detention because the care facility did not meet our city requirements. This claim has been going on for approximately 10 years or more. In 2019, the city installed some stormwater pipes on adjoining neighbor's property at a discharge structure on the golf course at a cost of over $137,000. The original design was going to be built was changed. Due to these modifications, the stormwater drainage is not flowing properly. It's overwhelming existing downstream capacity and it's creating other issues. First, the cart path or service road intake is too small to handle the flow during large storm events. Second, the spillway is improperly located and stormwater overflow is finding its way on its own level, eroding intake structure, outlet, and embankment in the cart path. Third, the excess water contributes to ongoing downstream erosion and damage to downstream channels and structures. And fourth, the standing water that accumulates at the bottom ground makes certain areas of the club unplayable. There are a couple of alternatives that the city can explore, and as the Freeport Club suggests, that the first alternative is for the city to continue its attempts to take on the drainage problem. By doing so, one, we waste time and resources without a proper plan. Two, we risk the damage to property and never accomplish what the goals are for the club. Third, we are unfamiliar with these types of projects and risk creating new problems as we attempt to remedy existing problems. Fourth, there's a risk of additional frustration to owners, guests, and stakeholders. And fifth, and most importantly, it turns into a never-ending demand on scarce city resources. The second alternative is for the city to do nothing. If this occurs, the club will likely pursue legal means to make the necessary repair. They have stated they will not put a dime towards this project. This can take us through a legal process on the definition of stormwater and state statutes and as they relate to city ordinances. No one wants to get involved in legal alternatives. If the Freeport Club is successful in any type of lawsuit, then we're back to alternative number 1. The third alternative is something that just came across. Caston Associates has informed us of an Illinois Environmental Protection Agency grant called the Green and Infrastructure Grant Opportunities, also known as the GIGO. The golf course situation is an eligible project for this program. There was a 75% state and 25% local match grant, and the application is due by the end of August. Although the golf course has stated they would not pay a dime towards the application, I believe the city should proceed with the concept plan and application with Caston. The reasons are the plan addresses the root causes of stormwater drainage problems. It can deliver a properly designed and executed solution. Grant monies can be used to substantially fund the project, and we might be able to finally come to a conclusion on this issue. Timing of this project is crucial. The City Council needs to approve a contract with Caston and Associates to develop the concept plan tonight. The plan will be submitted to the IEPA by August 17th. The money to pay the concept plan and application will come from the Stormwater Fund. Although the golf course has stated they would not pay towards the application or improvements, I believe it is the best interest of the city to have an independent engineer look at the situation and design a plan of action. We have been in this quandary for 10 plus years, and we still have to bring it to a conclusion. If we are awarded the funding, we'll have 2 years to complete the project, so the project can be phased. If the golf course is not willing to put some money or some skin into the game, we'll have to determine what we want to do at that time. I'm open to any questions, Your Honor.
Madam Mayor,
Alderman Brashaw.
thank you. I was going by memory only regarding the Freeport Golf Club and the stormwater situation. This was a number of years ago when this happened. with the expansion of Parkview Manor. And please forgive me if I don't remember the exact details or exact funds that were put forward. But I do remember that as a council, we had a lengthy discussion regarding this. My biggest worry, and a few people were unhappy with me that I kept bringing it up, was the fact that water always travels downhill. And I pointed out that we had had a few failures in the past when they had over-improved stormwater runoff areas, one specifically along American. I remember I used that as an example because it affected a lot of properties just east of 26, east of West. So once they fixed all the stormwater problems just west of 26, just east of there flooded dramatically. And people that had not had water in their basements before had basements flooding. So I had brought that up as a specific point, and Tom Clem, because this was in his ward, he and I kind of piggybacked on each other as far as trying to gain that information and that momentum of getting funds to cover any problems, specifically with figuring out what to do with those stormwater, whether it was going to be retention pond, and I believe that's the way they were leaning, or to improve the stormwater runoff area so that the golf course and the homes in that area would not be flooded. The people from Parkview, and I believe our engineer at the time, it might have been Sean Gallagher, there again my memory fails me, tried to reassure that the funds given would cover the stormwater problem. Now, I guess I'm going to ask Mr. McClanathan and Mr. Ross and Mr. Busker if they were on council at this time or if this was prior to their taking their roles, because maybe you can help with my memories on this. Thank you.
Mayor?
Alderman McClanathan.
Thank you. Well, I was around for the 19 work, but not this initial expansion I think that you're talking about. But I do have some questions in regards to that. How comfortable are we at a city level regarding the nature of these issues, the causes of these issues, the condition that it was prior to any work done by the city versus the condition after the city? I mean, have we wrapped our hands around this pretty thoroughly over the last 10 years?
Part of the problem is we've been through probably half a dozen engineers and/or public works directors. So there's been turnover. I can only go by what's been passed down to me verbally and some records that we were able to find. It sounds like this has been an issue. Now, whether any funds were ever given to the city, I don't know. We've been through at least 2 computer software changes since that time. We've moved to 3 different offices during that time. We've had records destroyed by a flood during that time, and we're not legally required to hold records that long, so they may have been disposed anyway.
Mayor, so is this something that we've observed? I mean, are we comfortable with what the stated problem is and the city's potential exposure on this?
Well, our exposure, I'd have to talk to our legal counsel, but you can see water coming through. We took a smaller pipe and enlarged it between the houses from, I call it Pearl City Road, to the golf course. Prior to that time, the water was jetting out. Now it flows out. So the velocity is a lot less, but the volume still is great.
When you say that there were some changes to the 2019 work, who was it requested at the city that 2019 work be changed, or?
No, it was one of the property owners who's also a board member on the golf club.
Follow-up, Mayor? Would the 2019 work as initially proposed by the city prior to the requested change by this member have alleviated the issues?
I think there still would have been issues downstream. It was just that we're trying to cut down on the velocity of the water.
Okay, and
we're still going to have the same amount of water, just coming out a lot or coming down slower than what it was. It was basically shooting out.
And was that the requested change then? What was the requested change?
I think the requested change was the angle on how it's coming out.
Okay, and is the angle exacerbating or alleviating the issue?
Well,
To the extent that, if you don't know, it's fine.
Yeah.
I don't know anything, I don't know much
Yeah.
about this. So
there's some erosion. I don't know what direction I'm looking at. I was on the golf course looking at it, and I never played the golf course, so I don't know which direction I'm looking. But if you're looking at the structure on the left side of the structure, there's some erosion because that's the way the water's flowing. And originally the water should have came out and flowed straight out and then been broken up by the riprap. But appears that it's coming out and heading to the left as you're looking at the structure.
Follow-up, Mayor? Yeah, obviously a lot of unknowns at the council level, just as I assume there are there, and we're all going on some certain representations. I do know, I mean, we've heard, murmurings of, hey, there might be an issue and things of that nature, but nothing that's ever gotten to this level here outside of, again, the 19 work, and I think there were some manholes, that we were doing broader manhole work in the area, and I think some of them went onto the golf course too. I'm not sure how that did or didn't impact it. I am concerned about the representation that the entity is saying that they're not going to contribute a single dime to it, particularly if some of the changes were done at the recommendation of one of their board members. That said, I understand the financial benefits for entering into this initial concept plan, particularly did you say it's a 75% state, 25% local match? Is that on any work that was done after this plan, or is that for this portion?
It'd be for the future work.
Okay, so we do the 15,000 for the concept plan, and any plans that are approved by that will be 75% forgiven or not forgiven, but met by the state rather than the municipality?
Right.
Other council members? I might have some more, but go ahead.
Madam Mayor?
Alderman Brashaw.
Thank you. I'm glad if anybody else wants to speak up too. Manager Bucas, I just want to ask that this stormwater runoff that we're speaking of, does this go through any private or residential areas, or does it go from the Freeport Club down through the park? Where exactly is this problematic area affecting?
The water starts basically at Parkview Manor, crosses the street, goes between some houses where we put the new pipe in, and then discharges onto the golf course. From there, it finds its way down to a stream and then cuts through the golf course, and then it enters the Cray Park and then discharges into Yellow Creek.
Further? Thank you. So do you know if the city had already remedied the area in the private residential areas? What I'm asking is if this water is coming off of Parkview, is it gaining momentum? I know it's a large amount of water because of their parking lot area, but once it gets into the private area, have we already, curtained the water off or channeled the water specific through there so it would go just into the golf course? Is it causing erosion there? I mean,
On the private homes, no, that's why we put the pipe in. There was a pipe there, but it was basically too small to handle the volume. And so it was, like I said, the velocity of the water was just really shooting out. So we put a bigger pipe in, and so now it flows through. Still the same amount of water, but a little bit slower than it would have been when it was backing up. And then from there, when it discharges, it goes across, I think the 18th.
It's the 10th and the 18th hole.
It goes across the, I believe, the 18th fairway, and then by the driving range, and then the 9th hole, I believe, and then the 10th hole's in there too, someplace. But yeah, so it's flowing through, and the concern for the golf course is that it's flowing above, and it's overwhelming there is a pipe that some of that water is gaining, but it's also overwhelming the ditch or the creek that's there, and it's starting to wash out some of the cart path bridges that are there.
I see. Okay, thank you.
Mayor,
Alderman McClanahan?
you said, was it the 2019 work that slowed the discharge rate? That is supposed to, you said it was shooting out at one point and it was going to be dispersed with riprap, and then with the change, it was kind of at a slower rate?
That's my non-engineering opinion.
Understood.
That when you put a bigger pipe in, it wasn't shooting out like a jet,
And,
but it's coming out a lot slower.
and
But it is coming,
okay.
same volume.
And what you're telling us in regards to this is based on your what's been represented to you by others, not, your firsthand observation, right?
Correct.
Okay. Was this, are they claiming that when did they, because you said at the beginning of your presentation that they were saying this has been about a 10-year issue, but then we also referenced the 2019. So which is the main concern here? Is it our recent work, or is it the work from 10 years ago?
The work that we allegedly didn't do 10 years ago.
Okay. I'm trying to balance a lot of, again, the potential for a 75-25 match makes sense. There's probably some issues in regards to discharge. There's some arguments in regards to what was natural flow beforehand, what was the condition before work, after work, all that stuff, none of which we have in front of us tonight. And, obviously you can make a cost-benefit analysis in regards to whether it's worth it or not. So along those lines, spending the $15,000 with this entity to potentially get that 75-25% ratio seems like a good use of funds. However, I just note for our future discussions in regards to that, before I'd commit to any plans or anything in regards to that, is particularly if the entity is saying they're not going to be a part of the solution, I'd certainly want a whole lot more information that would justify, that level of expenditure and that level of non-contribution by the other entity. Not to say it's not justified, I just don't have the facts for it for tonight.
If I may, Your Honor, I agree with what you're saying. Promises were made, but never by City Council, and certain employees may have made promises, and that's probably why it never came before City Council.
Okay.
That was one of the questions that was brought up, and I said I can't speak for council. Anything we do has to be approved by the council, so I wasn't going to make any commitments one way or another. I think it's important, though, that we proceed with this just so we have a plan, because really we have no plan. The drawing that was that I thought was a plan was basically a couple of lines drawn on a aerial photograph, and that doesn't really solve the issue. All we're doing is just pushing the water even that much faster. We need to slow it down before it starts hitting the golf course on that, and at least the fairways. And I agree with you too. I think it's a good investment, $15,000, because now we'll have something we could go on. We could phase it. If we don't get funded, at least we have a plan, and we could piecemeal it together.
And it's a lot cheaper than litigation.
Right, and I have no idea what it's going to cost.
Sure. Okay, thank you.
Madam Mayor,
Alderman Bradshaw?
thank you. Like Peter McClenathan said, I do believe that this is something we need to do to get the ball rolling, see if there is a remedy. I still would like to figure out if something was done in the past as far as the funds paid to the city by Parkview, or if they have any skin in this game as well to help cover costs or expenditures. I'm wondering if Parkview might have a copy of that contract, or if that is something that you could approach them.
I could talk to them. I don't know if there was ever a contract or just a verbal handshake. That's the problem. It's over 10 years ago.
And follow up. I'm not sure if I have anything either in my files, but I'm going to go home and purge through my city files and see if I have any of my old notes from back then. See if I can make some heads or tails of this.
Mayor?
Alderman McClanathan.
I don't know anything about 10 years ago, but greater than 2 or less than 10 years ago, when there was some work, and it coincided with some of the work that we were doing there on Pearl City Road / Empire on it. I think there was some contribution on there, but that's whether it was related to this, related to those issues, I can't speak to that. But I do recall, again, greater than 2 years ago, but less than 10, some contribution when that an agreement I think that we had with Parkview. But again, if you're saying 10 years ago, I can't speak to that.
One more follow-up.
Yes.
Thank you. And I don't want to know if this is this specific contract. I do remember one contract that the city went over that they said that we could, if there was a problem, we could go back to the business. There again, I don't remember if that's Parkview or not. We've had so much going on over the years, it's hard to remember every detail. Like I said, I will go back through my records too and see if I find something. That's it.
Madam Mayor,
Alderman Burberry.
thank you. Manager Lucas, we've danced around one issue, which is the club refuses, of course, based on conversation, to put any more money into this project. Can you, for the record, tell us why?
I believe they believe that it was a city issue, city problem, that we took a payment from Parkview Manor, and that we made a promise that we were going to take care of any stormwater issue.
And it's not resolved.
And it's not resolved. It's never been really discussed with the council as far as I know.
Right. Okay, thank you.
Madam Mayor.
Alderman Ross.
Yes, City Manager. Is there any documentation in reference to the payment and any type of paperwork on any of this?
It's very doubtful. And the reason I say that is because we've gone through a couple of software programs, financial software programs. We've moved 3 times with our files. We did have a flood where some of our records were destroyed, and I'll have to check with the state service side, but I believe we don't have to keep records over 10 years like that. So they may have been just disposed of under our normal course of operations.
Follow-up. Do they have any documentation to back up what they're stating that we may know of?
They said they've got emails and stuff from years ago. They said they've got some video. I think we found some of the video, but I think that's fairly recent. It's not back 10 years ago though.
Thank you, sir.
Well, Mayor,
Alderman McClanathan.
in the light of the fact that there undoubtedly is discharge, there is discharge coming from city pipes, and it is going onto the property, I think that I think it's prudent to go ahead and do this grants. I'm not making any representation as to what the final outcome is going to look like. So in light of that, I'd make a motion to adopt Resolution 2020-40.
I'll second.
Is there any further discussion? Seeing none, we have a motion made by Alderman McClanathan, seconded by Alderman Parker to adopt Resolution 2020-40. Madam Clerk, could you please take the roll?
McClanathan.
Aye.
Ross.
Aye.
Parker.
Aye.
Busker.
Aye.
Brashaw.
Aye.
Berberay.
Aye.
And Borneman.
Abstain.
The resolution passes 6-0 with 1 abstention.
Item number 10 is a motion to approve a bid. Could you please read this?
Bid opening on July 23rd, 2020, Empire Street and Empire Court Mill and Overlay.
Director Boyer.
On Tuesday, July 28th, bids were publicly opened and read aloud for the above referenced project. 2 contractors chose to submit bids for the project. The low bid was submitted by Martin & Co. from Oregon, Illinois, in the amount of $1,129,850.28. Civil Constructors, Inc. submitted the second lowest bid in the amount of $1,526,916.25. That was as read, but as calculated, it was $1,566,016.25. We conducted a contractor bid scope review with Martin and Company and believe their bid to be responsive and complete. Therefore, the city may wish to award a contract to Martin and Co. in the amount of $1,129,850.28. Please note that these bid results include 4 construction phases. Phase 1 includes Empire Court, and it involves the base inlet or the base repairs, inlet repairs, and mill and overlay to be completed no later than October 1st, 2020. Phase 2 is Empire Street, except for the area in front of the grade school. It includes all areas of curb and gutter replacement, base course in front of the curbing, temporary asphalt pavement wedge, sidewalk and ADA ramp and detectable warning replacements, driveway replacements, inlet relocation, and site grading and restoration. Phase 2 shall be completed no later than December 1st, 2020. Phase 3 is again Empire Street. This includes the school, and it is the curb and gutter replacement, base course in front of the curbing, ADA ramps, and detectable warning replacement, and other site restoration. Phase 3 will begin at the end of May 2021 and will be completed by June 30th, 2021. Phase 4, Empire Street. This includes this is from Burchard to Park, and it includes variable depth milling and overlay, striping, and final touches. The project will reach substantial completion by July 20th, 2021, with final completion by July 31st, 2021. The information contained herein and in the attached bid tabulation is provided to you for reference and use in your decision as to the award, the contract. Thank you for your patience during the preparation and modification of this project.
Questions, council?
Madam Mayor,
Alderman Brashaw.
thank you. Director, these were the bids that were to include all the necessary repairs stated, correct?
Yes.
And may I have a follow-up? And this is kind of a nosy question. I noticed in here, the Empire Grade School section was exemption in Phase 2, probably because of the school year, is that correct?
That's correct.
And can I ask, what is that section you speak of?
Well, right in front of the school, there's a crosswalk, there's an area of curbing that's crumbling, and then
Exactly what we're going to be placing at Shawnee and 14?
sure, absolutely.
That would be great.
Madam Mayor,
Alderman Burberry.
I don't live with Google, but it comes in handy. Looking here, a variety of signs and sizes. A rectangular one says caution, autistic child. The diamond, typical warning, is autistic child area. There's one that says slow down, and then a child running, autistic child in area, and there it goes on and on. There's several of them, so obviously there's enough out there to pick from. I have a follow-up question, please. Is it our policy as a city and a council to indicate the individual who requests the sign pay for the sign? Or do we do that
Mayor?
as a city?
Generally, we get requests for children at play signs, and we deny them because, as Alderperson Brashaw pointed out, we'd have them all over the place. So I think the fact that Alderman Ross asked her to pay for those signs, I think that's a good alternative, and it will deter some people from asking signs. Otherwise, we'd have sign pollution on all our streets.
Okay.
Because everybody would want a sign.
Thank you.
Mayor? Yes, Alderman Bittery. When I spoke with her, I says, well, I says, when you leave, if you leave this house, residence, I say, you're more than willing to take the sign and pole with you to your next residence. I mean, you bought it, so you get to, take it with you. And she seems to be perfectly all right with that. So this is the, first you wanted a speed bump, and I said, nah, no speed bumps due to the emergency vehicles. Now, but she's perfectly okay with a autistic sign. Now, maybe we need to see what Director of Public Works have to offer, and maybe it does say autistic just to make it clear, not just child at play.
Right.
You know, we want to just get a sign to make it clear to the residents or the travelers, you know, vehicles, that, hey, we have special needs children in this area, and we need to slow down and, you know, be a little bit more on the ball.
Yeah, thank you.
Madam Mayor?
Alderman Busker?
Yes, I'm in favor of, be in favor of this, but Manager Bucus did bring up a point that having requests for this all over the area could potentially become sign pollution. With this, you know, I have no objection to it, but I have noticed past driving around that we do have caution deaf children signs, other things like that that are faded well beyond. I'm sure that child is aged out, so I don't know if, hate to tax the public works with something else, but maybe look at some of those signs that we have in the area and are they still valid? But, you know, that's a topic for another time, but it was just something that I think does need to be looked at if we're gonna be authorizing more signage, so.
Mayor,
Alderman Warnerman?
I have two questions for Alderman Ross or Director or City Manager. The sign is going to be where exactly?
It's going to be at, it's in the area of Shawnee and 14th. They live right on the corner of Shawnee and 14th, be on the south side of the street.
So will it be on their property or in advance of the property to give notice to people who, or warning to people?
No, it would be in the parkway, in between the sidewalk and the curb. And she would like to have one on each side for the traffic that's going east and west.
And the language requested, this was the language she requested?
No, the language, we haven't seen the sign yet. When I asked about it, I spoke with City Manager Bucus, and he said, you know, hey, autistic children area, that's what we came up with. It's just a, should we say, a start. And I think it would be better if it did say autistic children area, something to that manner, to catch a person's eye.
Okay, I bring that up because I remember reading a story about a sign like this being in a neighborhood in another community, and people came by and they spray painted it because it said autistic child and not child with autism, and they found that offensive. And the parent of the child actually said, no, we prefer to say autistic child in this sense because it is more attention grabbing to a motorist, whereas if you're driving, you see the word autistic versus child. So I just brought that up because I think we should be accommodating to people, and we don't want to be offensive with our wording, but that's why I asked if that was the resident's language, or is that ours, and just let's make sure she's okay with this. Obviously, since she is footing the bill too, we need to double check that.
Okay, Mayor, at this time, that is our language, but what I could do is clarify it with her that this would be okay, or when Director of Public Works shows me what he has to offer, I can also take that over to her and ask her which one would she prefer.
Thank you.
Mayor?
Alderman McClanathan?
Okay, I do like the idea of having some sort of policy in regards to this, so we kind of know what we are and aren't doing. I do like the idea of paying for it under these circumstances to reduce the frequency of use. And I do like the idea of having a uniform sign in regards to it. So with all those things considered, Alderman Ross, are you asking that at our next meeting, the administration brings us back what they're proposing for us to, for the sign, what it looks like, and for us to make a decision then?
Yes, that would be fine.
All right. Well, I'd move then to move this on to the next regularly scheduled council meeting for further deliberation and information.
Second.
Okay, so we have a motion made by Alderman McClanathan, seconded by Alderman Busker to move this on to the next regularly scheduled meeting. Item number 12 is the approval of the Historic Preservation Commission facade improvement grant. Yes.
Oh, it's not an ordinance, so normally with an ordinance, you have just a motion in a second, so if we could just take a vote, a voice vote would be fine.
Okay, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? That motion passes. So item number 12, Director Hines, concerning the facade improvement grant recommendations.
Thank you. So the city received 7 facade improvement program applications this year. They were seeking a total reimbursement of $45,218 in total. This year we had $20,000 available, $10,000 coming from the downtown TIF district and $10,000 coming from the Paint the Port event last year. So here's a summary of our applicants. First we had 24 West Main Street. That was Chloe Zuberbuehler and Zach Peterson asking for $9,225. For an update to their storefront windows, removing non-original brick, restoring original glass, replacing doors, rerouting a staircase to the south wall, installing a mosaic tile in their entryway, and painting the facade. And then next we had 4 West Stevenson Street. This was Michael Mead asking for $6,045.50 to install and paint original cornice decor on the facade. Then we had 25 West Stevenson Street, Michael Mead asking for $4,800, restoring 3 solid wood single pane double hung radius windows and paint exterior of the windows. And we had 109 West Main Street, which was Tim Mahoney asking for $5,000 to restore, renovate, and renovate the facade, including prism glass, windows, the front door, tuck point brick, hood above the storefront, tile in the entryway, and panel system below the storefront. 455 West Stevenson Street, that's Nicole and Roger Stow. They asked for $4,900 to wash, caulk, paint, and repair the all mostly natural stone facade of the building. Then 30 West Spring Street, this is Lawrence Pitsley asking for $13,650 to replace storefront windows with brick. And then lastly, we had 24 East Stevenson Street, Cal Westcott asking for $1,597.50 to restore and paint the windows, the plate tower, and maintain loose bricks. Due to COVID, the public hearing of the Historic Preservation Commission was pushed back by 3 months. And as a result of this, we had to move forward the public hearing, and we're moving the completion deadline forward as well. So the deadline was originally going to be at the end of August. That's obviously a little short at this point, so we're extending the deadline to December 31st of 2020. And then if, given weather circumstances or other things, if applicants need to extend the project more, they can write a written request to staff. So on July 21st, the Historic Preservation Commission voted 6-0 to recommend funding for the following 3 projects for a total of $19,025. So this includes 24 West Main Street, 109 West Main Street, and 25 West Stevenson Street. So the commission discussed funding a percentage of all projects versus just funding a few projects in whole. They ultimately went with funding a few projects in whole so they could help these applicants complete their entire project that they requested. So this will have a greater, not funding in whole, funding 50% of the project, but this will have a greater impact and will help make sure that they can complete their projects. And staff agrees that the proposed projects are worth investing in to preserve, restore, and rehabilitate the exterior features of these buildings.
Questions?
Mayor,
Alderman McClathan?
thank you. Good and bad in regards to it. The good being this is, I think, the 3rd year that we've had it, and I really appreciate all the work that Paint the Port has done in helping finance half of this award here for this year. And it's also good that I think this is it's bad and good. And this is the first year that I think we have demand that is clearly exceeding the funds available. So it's tough that we're having to make some tough decisions here. I mean, looking at all 7 applicants by the 6 individuals, it looks like they're all worthy projects. They all met generally the criteria. And I appreciate these individuals looking to reinvest in their buildings in downtown. The only real question I had going forward on this, and it wouldn't impact here because I don't think we have a policy on it, but I do note that a couple of these proposed wards, or at least one of these proposed wards, I think is maybe a repeat in regards to, do they have a policy when they're considering awarding to a property on here, whether that property has previously received funds from the facade improvement grants, or is that not a factor that they consider?
That's a good question, and off the top of my head, I don't recall if there's anything in the application regarding a second round, but I do believe that the Historic Preservation Commission will look at that, and I can't remember which property it was, but I know they had discussed it, that it's almost not necessarily better, but it helps improve that property even more. So that was something that they did consider.
I'll follow up. Yeah, I would ask that they consider that down the road. Again, they're all worthy projects, but if we've got a situation where we have other individuals with similarly situated projects here, I'd like to see it continue to keep going. But again, no problem with the ones for this time, but just something for them to consider on the next round down the road.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Mayor,
Alderman Borneman?
the Historic Preservation Committee, did they take presentations in person from the applicants, or did they just review the materials that we've received?
They took the presentations in person, so each applicant had about 10 minutes to talk over their application, their plans for the building, and we had one applicant did not attend. I believe that was for 24 East Stevenson Street, but he did have a chance to present his plans at a previous Historic Preservation Commission meeting for a certificate of appropriateness, so they were aware of his plans at least, but every applicant did get to speak.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Any further questions, council?
Madam Mayor,
Alderman Bradshaw.
I'd like to make a motion to approve the Historic Preservation Committee's recommendations.
We have a motion made by Alderman Bradshaw, seconded by Alderman Parker for the approval. If there's no further discussion, Madam Clerk, would you please take the roll?
McLanathan.
Aye.
Ross.
Aye.
Parker.
Aye.
Busker.
Aye.
Brashaw.
Aye.
Berbere.
Aye.
And Borneman.
Aye.
The motion passes 7-0.
Thank you. Next is reports from department heads. Finance. Thank you. Community Development.
Thank you. I just had a quick update on some census-related items. So we had previously said that the Census Bureau was going to do door-to-door enumeration on August 11th. That was their plan. As of April, they had announced that, but recently we found out that for the northern region of Illinois, they actually started going out last week. So they're doing things a little bit earlier than expected, and there is a high possibility that they're going to end operations a month earlier than they had originally planned for as well. So that's kind of puts a damper on the hope that we have to get a complete and accurate count. So I believe that the Census Bureau is going to stop doing door-to-door enumeration by September 30th, but people still have a chance to respond online and by phone if they would like to do that. We highly encourage that as well. But we're at 68.5% response rate right now. We're above the national and the Illinois average, which are 62.6 and 67.3 respectively. And the county as a whole is at 72.2%. So we're pretty close to where we were in 2010.
Madam Mayor.
Alderman Bradshaw.
Thank you. So Director, when exactly is the door-to-door beginning?
So it started last Thursday, July 30th.
So if our constituents, I'm sorry, can I continue, Madam Mayor? So if our constituents ask us, then we can say that if they haven't answered already, they can expect a knock on their door or a doorbell ringing?
Yep, yeah, and the way that they can check if the Census Bureau worker is legitimate is by asking for a Census Bureau ID. It should have their photo and name on it, and then they'll typically have like a Census Bureau bag with them or some type of insignia on them.
Thank you.
Mayor,
Alderman McClanathan.
thank you. It's my understanding that we recently restarted the administrative hearing process, like within the last week or two. Could you give us an update as to how that process is going? What adjustments have we made post-COVID? And how do we plan on alleviating the backlog of cases that we have there?
Yeah, so we have we're holding hearings weekly. We started doing it bi-weekly or twice a month earlier this year, and then obviously with the pandemic we had to stop doing that. So we are a little backlogged right now, but the weekly hearing should help that. We're doing each inspector is going to have about 5 hearings per hour. So the building inspector will have 5 hearings at 9 a.m. The code enforcement supervisor will have 5 at 10, and so on. So it's been going well so far. We're requesting that everyone wear masks and social distance while they're here as well.
A follow-up, Mayor? How quickly after an administrative hearing do we follow up on a property that was fined and is determined not in compliance at the administrative hearing?
They have 30 days.
And then after 30 days, we're sending a nuisance back out there, or code inspector back out there to see has it been taken care of. What happens if they do take care of it within the 30 days after the assessment of the fine?
If they were assessed a fine, then they do have to pay the fine. If they fix it 30 days after the fine, then they no longer they won't get another ticket. If they don't address it again, then they'll receive another citation.
A follow-up, Mayor. One final question on this just for tonight. Are we finding that 30 days is an acceptable time frame post-fining for resolution, or is that something that the administration would like council to review that time frame, or is that something that we're not prepared to answer tonight?
I'm not entirely prepared to answer that tonight.
That's fine.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Couple
Alderman
questions.
Parker.
On that, if they get fined in them hearings and they do not pay it, how do we collect that money then?
We work with Diana Cayley, the executive assistant. She helps out with.
Depends on what kind of fine it is. We'll either put a lien on the property or we'll go through the Illinois iDrop program, which basically intercepts any refund they may be getting, income tax refund.
Okay, thank you. One more question. On the census, the people going door to door, are they aware of the people that have already done their census? So they're not going to come to somebody that's already done it. It's only if they haven't done it.
Yep, exactly. And if there may be a chance where someone fills it out, say they fill it out today, and then the Census Bureau employee comes sometime this week because they hadn't, their system hasn't been properly updated yet. That may be a chance that happens, but they'll have the list of households that haven't responded yet, and that's where they'll be going.
Thank you.
Mayor? With regards to the administrative hearings, there is always a follow-up investigation 30 days after the ruling?
Yes, yep, yeah, so the person who received the citation, they'll have a chance to call us, and we advise that they call us before that 30-day period ends to come and look at the status of the property. If they do not call, then we'll go out and check.
Thanks.
Thank you, Director.
Thank you.
Public Works.
Since last council meeting, we've moved forward on the tree cutting. We've got the contract tree cutters. We're about 55% of the way through the contract at this point, so making good progress and seeing a lot of success. I've also conducted a follow-up phone call with Mr. Helm on the Woodside Drive project. We're still collaborating and working on a solution there. As far as Sunset and Herd are currently repaving that. The grinding's been completed or nearly complete, and we should be paving next week on that project. And road painting and sweeping continues. Most, if not all, of the school crosswalks are complete at this time. And the Hancock Brownfield site is mowed and prepared for an IP inspection. So that's all I've got for tonight.
Thank you.
Mayor, real quick.
Yes.
I've noticed, and we've seen at the council level, some of, the pictures of some of the work that you're doing. I would say you, the department.
Sure.
And obviously, there's been an uptick in activity, and I appreciate it. Is there any consideration given as to ways that you can maybe disseminate some of those photos and things of that nature to the public at large, so they can kind of see, what's Public Works doing on there?
Absolutely. I've approached the IT director, Kurt Sutman, on that, and we're currently working on how it's possible for us to disseminate that through social media and that kind of venue.
Thank you.
Alderman Parker?
I received 2 calls today on Woodside Drive, and just to verify, it's not a done deal between Civil and us yet? They're still
No.
negotiating, or?
No, yeah, they're. I have sent 2 weeks ago, we sent a letter to Civil that said, we regard this as defective work, and we want this remediated under the contract that we signed with Civil. So we're working through that process. If we can't find a resolution, then we'll have to review the next step.
Oh, okay, because whoever called me said it was a done deal, that they were not gonna help, and I didn't know. I wanted to verify that.
I'm not aware of those conversations. I'd like to know who that was, but
you
if it is, there may be, I can't exclude the possibility that there are other side conversations going on between other parties and members of the Helm family, but.
I will give you their name and phone number then,
Okay.
if you'd like it.
Okay, thank you.
I had a question too, Mayor.
Alderman Borneman?
Have you heard back from Civil yet?
Yes.
And right now,
On the 28th.
and at this point, you can
He requested more information. I provided that in the form of more photos. And we're supposed to be getting together very, very shortly to discuss the material spec and whether or not it passed certain lab testing for the oil that was used. I informed Mr. Helm that in going through the bid, I noticed that they put down about 30% of what the bid called for on the prime coat. And I thought that was a discrepancy he might want to be aware of, and that the material change to hot oil was made to convenience them and to work with their logistics and help them. That material was more expensive than the original bid, and the total bid came in about $20,000 more than the original bid. So the final cost was $20,000 more. So there was also a discrepancy about the final layer of chip and the fact that it was applied so late in the season. Most of it was broomed back up and taken away. It's a normal process for chip and seal, except it's not normal to apply it so late in the season. So therefore, I believe a significant amount of that chip was broomed up and trucked away.
Okay, and just one more. And if you don't feel comfortable answering this on such short notice, but that's a very unique road, Woodside Drive, you'd agree?
Yes.
That's not the question, but yeah. Do you feel like that was the appropriate type of project to do on that type of road, the seal, the chip seal?
It's an unusual combination, the way the base was ground up and grouted, created a very hard surface, and then the chip seal was put on top of that. In most chip seal applications I've seen, there's no hard base to the chip seal road. So there's a bit of a uniqueness to the project that I'm not familiar with, and I believe that the intent was to do this on Woodside Drive as a potential candidate for other future road work in the city. So I think there was a little bit of a speculative nature as far as this process.
Okay, thank you.
Mayor,
Alderman Ross?
Director, are there different types of chips that they could have used on this roadway?
I suppose there are. Yeah.
I mean, is there such thing called like an ice chip or something like that?
Well, ice chip is kind of a colloquialism for like quarter-inch chips. So I've never heard them use ice chip before. We always call it just regular, road chip. But
Okay, I'll follow up. What, with the amount of trees they have on Woodside Drive, do you think that plays a part in it not sealing, not getting the sunlight to seal?
I'd have to defer to a pavement expert on that. Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
So I don't really have an answer for
Yeah,
you.
thank you,
Sorry
though.
about that.
Thank you, Director.
Thank you very much.
And Fire Department.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Just two things to report tonight. One, just a reminder to council that Deputy Chief Scott Thompson will be retiring this August 7th. On Friday at 8 a.m., we're going to be holding a flag ceremony for him. If you'd like to attend, we'd love to have you there. Please let us know if you're coming so we can make sure we post a notice appropriately if there will be a quorum present. Also, the PD and fire are going to be doing their Christmas in July bell ringing in August. We weren't able to get it organized in July, so we'll be ringing at Cubs on August 14th. And just a little heads up that Walmart has withdrawn all of their support of the bell ringing because of COVID-19. So we're going to be looking for some alternative sites to ring bells this year, and the community's help would be greatly appreciated. Thank you very much. That's all I have this evening.
Thank you, Chief. Police Department.
Thanks, Madam Mayor. I just wanted to take a minute to address the violence that the city has seen in the last, starting in July and even before. I've never seen the violence at the level that it's had. Since July 5th, we've had 10 people that have been shot. 2 of them have passed away from their injuries. It's just not, those aren't the only victims of gun violence. We've had random houses that have been shot while they're occupied, and just the fear that it generates in the neighborhoods. One of the biggest factors that we're coming up against is the culture of silence. When we're out trying to investigate these crimes, some of the victims are not helpful. Some of the witnesses aren't helpful. We've know that people have been at these scenes, know what have happened, but haven't or won't come forward to connect the dots so we can get these individuals into court and off the street. We can and will throw every resource that we have at it to keep the community safe. We can throw all the money that we want at it and all the manpower that we want at it. But the common factor here that we're not getting is the cooperation from some of the community, a small portion of the community, in connecting these dots so we can get these people off the street. I'm pretty sure that this is a very, very small segment of the community that is perpetrating these actions. And if we can take 1, 2, 3, 4 of them and hold them accountable for their actions, it would make the community a safer place. So we need to have that connection with the community and need the community's help and support to take care of these issues.
Thank you, Chief.
Mayor,
Alderman Borneman.
is there anything you recommend that?
Correct.
And prior to that, we've had this terrible, there's been murders, but the shootings where no one's shot. I wonder if we could do a better job of publicizing that information so people realize the seriousness of the issue, because I certainly didn't realize the prevalence of this until I got on city council and the city manager would send us updates for non-arrested or charged offenses. Even as an assistant state's attorney, I wasn't aware of the amount of cases that were going, uncharged, and so I don't know if there's a way where we promote this more. I know Crime Stoppers does it, but I just feel like the word needs to get out that it's becoming an epidemic in this town, and it's really sad to see, because this is the town I love and grew up in, and it's hard to believe that it's just hard to believe.
I agree, and just because there's not a victim, doesn't mean there aren't victims of gun violence. Like I said before, innocent people who are just trying to sleep in their house, get woke up by rounds flying through the house. Just the fear that comes with that. It's a huge problem, more so than most people would know, and I would love to share the information on that if there's a proper way to do that.
Thank you.
Mayor.
Alderman Ross.
Okay. Chief, as you stated before, we're still in the COVID. So with the house parties, even though we don't know all they all at this time, aren't we still breaking them up that way? There's so many people in one area at one time?
We are not, but there's numerous ordinances that we can use effectively in those situations to end the party and break those parties up. One of the important things is for landlords and things like that to know what's going on and take responsibility also and hold their tenants accountable when they're having these large parties like this.
Yeah. Follow up, Mayor. With the manpower you have, I'm going to say you guys doing a good job.
Appreciate it. Thank you.
Because we've got a different clientele of people in this town now. And so I have to say you guys doing a great job. I mean, that's because it always can be worse. So thank you.
Mayor?
Alderman McClenathan.
To hit back on the last thing you mentioned, in regards to the landlord issue, there's still a landlord registration. Who currently from the city, whether it's PD or non-PD, is responsible for contacting landlords when we have issues?
I believe that falls under community development, or that's where it was after it left the police department.
And then, well, city manager's gonna give his report, but I'll just ask, where are we at on that when we get to that level? If you could just touch on that. If there's a disconnect in regards to, because I know the program, I said, it's been in place. I know there's not a certain fee in regards to it, but the program's still in place. So if it's a tool that we have in place, but there's a disconnect, how can we address that? Also, to go back to video, and I do echo a lot of the comments of Alderman Borneman, and I appreciate those comments. In regards to video, I do know there are a lot of citizens that do have access to these to videos and would be more than willing to assist the departments in regards to the use of or access to those videos. What is our current procedure for accepting, videos from or a feed or things of that nature from residents, whether you're talking Ring or something else? Do we have a policy in regards to that?
We don't have a policy in place, and that's maybe something I need to work on with IT to make sure that we keep our systems safe, and while we allow that information to come in. Currently, we have some that email the photos or the footage to different officers in the police department, but maybe we can address that in a more robust manner and streamline how we can get that information.
And I know in the past you've accessed kind of large stationary cameras before. Are those still the primary methods that we're using for surveillance, or are there other tools that the department is looking at, whether it's, again, neighborhood, individualized ones or otherwise, that could assist the manpower in its current situation? It's not going to solve the problem of culture of silence, but that could assist you guys in the video portion.
There's some challenges when it comes to our regular poll cameras, and I'd prefer to talk to you one-on-one about that. But the general surveillance, there is a need for it, and there's other options that we can use when we're coming into those challenges with the poll cameras.
Currently, out of the cases, just relevant the shootings portions, whether house, person, murder, things of that nature, Has video surveillance been the primary method by which you've been able to solve those recent cases?
There's been several cases that have been solved with the assistance of video evidence.
All right. Thank you, Chief. Thank you for your
I
efforts.
would like to comment on the landlord issue in the possible disconnect. Our systems currently, our systems at the police department and here at community development don't communicate well. One of the things, I need to work with the community development director better to get that information to her. Obviously, we're the ones that receiving that information, so sometimes it's difficult for us to go through each of those individual calls, find out where the large parties are, the other violations, to get them to community development to speak with the people that are responsible for that. So if there is a disconnect, it's a disconnect in our technologies that is a struggle for us at the police department to communicate over here without doing it the old-fashioned way with paper handouts and then somebody else going through those handouts.
I'd just ask administration-wise, if it's something of a resource issue, let us know. If it's not, if it's just a way of finding out how you can get those compatible, appreciate you doing it. And again, do want to say thank you to you and your department overall in difficult times.
Thank you.
Thank you, Chief. Water and sewer.
Yes, thank you, Madam Mayor. Two items tonight. The first one over at the Fields of Freeport, the contractor is starting back drilling on the production well. And the second item, if anyone has traveled past South, Carroll, or Float, one would notice that the Carroll elevated tank looks a little bit cleaner. Had a contractor out Thursday and Friday to go and give that a pressure washing. That's all.
Thank you. IT. And library.
Just a quick thing that I wanted to tell you about, and anybody that's listening, is today we started circulating STEM kits. We received a grant from the Illinois Electrical and Electronics Engineers for $1,800, and we received one installment for $500 right at the beginning of the COVID crisis. And so but we're just now, as we all know, it's affected all areas of the city as well as the state. So that includes our cataloging consortium. So we just got them cataloged and finalized, and right now we added a telescope, a microscope, some circuits to learn about electricity, and there are two more, and I can't think of them off the top of my head, but they are available to check out just like a book. There are some special roles that go with that. We are posting a video on Facebook, so if you want more information, you can go to our Facebook page, and we'll be also putting information on our website, and you can also call the library and speak with our youth services manager, Amanda Myers, and she will give you all the information you need about how to check them out and what the time period is. But we're really excited about that. So we'll be getting $1,300 more in the fall and be adding some more kits to the collection.
Thank you, Ashley.
Thanks.
And city manager's report.
Thank you, Your Honor. We received word today from the Illinois Department of Transportation that our major bridge project on Hancock Street is not being funded for fiscal year 2025. So we're going to have to push that project back to another year, and applications will be due again sometime this fall, and we will apply at that time for fiscal year 2026. And that's all I have at this time, Your Honor.
Thank you. I am happy to report that recently we have 6 new businesses that have opened up in Freeport. And so for the month of August, there'll be several ribbon cuttings. So actually tomorrow at noon is ribbon cutting, if you can avail yourself to that, at Port Tubing on Van Buren. And then Thursday at noon is a new pet facility called Brooks Barks and Recreation on Meadows Drive. So if you would like to know the remainder of the 6, let me know and I'll send you an email of where those are. And then just to echo, Chief Liggett's putting out there for Scott Townsend's retirement, again, 8 o'clock on Friday morning, if you can be there. And then also just would like to say a special thank you to Alderman Ross and Alderman McClanathan for their efforts over the weekend in more mowing projects in the floodway. So I'd just like to say thank you.
You're welcome.
And so on to council announcements. McClanathan?
Thank you, Mayor. The only thing I note is Manager Bukis, I appreciate the updates you've given council, and it looks like department-wide, it's a very busy time for departments with a lot of the difficulties that are still in place and a lot of work being done. I appreciate it. And as always, I'm kind of a broken record on this in regards to it, but some of those areas that we can kind of highlight so the community knows, here's this work that's being done here, here's this work being done there. I think it's just helpful for the community. They should be looking at IT back there in regards to that, but just different ways that we can highlight, here's what your city's doing in regards to it, because I appreciate you letting us know individually, but with those departments are working hard in those areas, I think the constituents see how their dollars are being spent. That's all. Thank you.
Thank you. Alderman Ross?
Nothing, Nightmare.
Thank you. Alderman Parker?
Nothing tonight, Your Honor.
Thank you. Alderman Berberet?
Nothing, Your Honor.
And Alderman Busker?
Nothing this evening.
And Alderman Brashaw?
Nothing, Your Honor.
And Alderman Borneman?
I just want to thank the city manager and the administration for, you sent out an implicit bias training for employees recently, and I looked that over and was able to go through that, and I appreciate the opportunity, and I'm glad that our employees went through that as well. That's all I have.
Thank you. Item number 17 is public comments. Are there any public comments this evening? Mr. Carroll.
Okay, I am Steve Carroll. Okay, this spring, Freeport's downtown experienced broken windows on storefronts and other types of vandalism. Downtown was a mess with broken windows and boarded up storefronts. And Jody Miller's response was to proclaim a citywide curfew and bring in the National Guard. I found her reaction to be somewhat ironic because my neighborhood and many others have been dealing with similar problems for years. Broken windows, vandalism, abandoned and boarded up properties are the norm. But what makes my neighborhood and others like mine different from downtown is the type of violence. In the last 2 months, within a 3-block radius of where I live, there have been 2 people killed and 6 wounded. The 900 block of Carroll, the corner of Maple and Galena, High Street, and 1218 Oak are recent scenes of death and violence. So where's the state of emergency for our neighborhoods? Where's the curfew? Where's the National Guard? Obviously, our neighborhoods don't count. These problems have been around long time before there were protests and pandemics. They are, in fact, results of denial by city government. In regards to last week's murder, and even tonight, Chief Summers referred to a culture of silence. That can also apply to Mayor Miller. In her weekly column in the paper, she never mentions the victims and families whose lives have been ravaged by the violence in our neighborhoods. Not one word of sympathy. She doesn't even pretend to care. This is also part of the culture of silence. Jody always ends her weekly column with the clueless tagline, "Freeport is a great place to live, work, and play." While that might be true on North Willow Avenue, it's certainly not true on Carroll, High, Maple, or Oak. These are places where people get killed and wounded. Please understand that living in a safe, decent neighborhood, it's not a privilege, it's a right. Jody, find something else to do on Monday nights.
Are there any other public comments? Seeing none, we will move on to item number 18, which is executive session. Madam Clerk, would you please read this?
And Manager Bucus, we just need exceptions 2 and 21, is that correct?
Correct.
Collective negotiating matters between the public body and its employees or their representatives, or deliberations concerning salary schedules for one or more classes of employees. Secondly, discussion of minutes lawfully closed under this act, whether for purposes of approval by the body of the minutes or semi-annual review of the minutes as mandated by Section 2.06.
Is there a motion to enter into executive session?
So moved.
Second.
We have a motion made by Alderman McClanathan, seconded by Alderman Ross. Madam Clerk, could you please take the roll?
McClanathan.
Aye.
Ross.
Aye.
Parker.
Aye.
Busker.
Aye.
Brashaw.
Aye.
Berberet.
Aye.
And Borneman.
Aye.
Motion passes 7-0.